The remaining Jews now were confined to a few narrow back streets in our town. This time, the Rosenbloods took us in. Inside the house, people moved about mechanically. No one spoke very much. Even the complaints, which at times would arise from living together in tight quarters, had stopped. Each family was confined itself to one bed. Whatever our possessions were was on the bed. Whatever we were able to do, we slept 3 or 4 people in one bed. We ate on the bed. We planned escapes on the bed. We fantasized that the Germans are being defeated in probably any day. They don't even know about it. The Russians are going to walk in and they will save us on the bed. I used to pinch myself in order not to sleep, try to keep myself awake desperately, to be on my guard. My mother spent the night awake, sitting on the edge of a narrow bed, which she shared with me and my 5-year-old sister. I would say to my mother, "Mom, can I go to sleep now?" She says, "Go ahead, I am awake." I remember my mother's instructions to me, because she was positive that I will only survive. She begged me and indoctrinated me what I can do, the name to choose. Don't make a mistake by saying anything in Yiddish. Don't even dream about it. My mother gets up in the morning and she doesn't say a word to us, takes me in one hand and takes my little sister in the other hand, and she said, "Let's go." I wrote about it in detail. I remember that day because I've lived that day through all the days of my life. All the days of my life. In my dreams, they come these days. In my nightmares, they come these days to me. I have lived them since that day. It was the end of the 2nd year of the German occupation. We were walking through back streets and alleys, staying close to the doorways. As we passed the prayer house where our family worshipped, my mother explained that we were going to a Gentile family to whom she had given all our remaining possessions and who in turn had promised to hide us when the time came. The family lived in a formerly Jewish-owned house and very near our own house. I knew every corner of that house where I used to play with my cousins and friends. We were approaching the house. Suddenly, we heard the terrifying sounds of shooting coming from the ghetto, and action had started. It was fast, loud, and full of painful screams and death. People everywhere were running, and we too started to run as fast as we could. We reached the house where we would be saved. We pushed our way inside. We found ourselves standing in front of a man, his wife, and 2 small children. The man stared at us in disbelief and told his wife to take the children to the back of the room. He then turned to my mother and in a loud and angry voice shouted, "What are you doing here? You must get out of here immediately." "But we can't leave. An action has started, and you promised to hide us." My mother said, "I have no hiding place. I want you out of here right now." He started to push us out of the room as my mother continued to plead. "Have mercy on my children. The streets are full of Germans," she sobbed, "and if we go out, we will be killed." The man's wife returned and, confronting her husband, demanded that he throw us out immediately. In the ensuing commotion, my mother turned her head quickly and looked at me. On her face, I caught a glimpse of unspeakable desperation. She was afraid to speak, but her gaze was totally fixed on me. With all the strength left in her, she wanted to say something, but her lips remained closed. Suddenly, she opened her eyes wide and shot me a glance wild with urgency. Then, with an instant wink, she willed me to move. She was telling me to get away now, to run, to save myself. As I stepped back, my mother turned from me, and I never saw her face again.